Good evening, traders and investors. Will back here with another one, coming to you with a Monday market recap. Hopefully you guys had a beautiful weekend. As for myself, you might notice a slightly different than usual setup, and that's because I'm traveling right now, currently in Seoul, South Korea, and we'll be traveling in Asia for the next roughly 3.5–4 weeks. Now, that doesn't change the schedule to the video uploads. They will be uploaded a bit later than normal, though, between 8 and 10 p.m., because there's a 12-hour difference. That's between 8 and 10 in the morning for me, so I'll wake up as early as possible and get these videos done as soon as possible. Thank you so much for understanding, and thank you so much for your patience as well. Now, in terms of the market performance today, well, the SPY and the QQQ putting in another green day, and that is in spite of the negative headline that we got Friday after the close, which of course everybody knows by now, which is Moody's cutting America's pristine credit rating, citing the rising debt. They dropped them down one notch, and this follows in their peers' footsteps. Earlier in 2023, we had Fitch cutting their rating from AAA to AA+, and all the way back in 2011, we had Standard & Poor's, S&P Global, doing the same thing, cutting the U.S. debt level to from AAA to AA+. I'll remind you right now, the Moody's credit rating stands at AA1, which on a common scale is roughly still an AA+, as measured by their peers as well. Seems as though the markets did take them in stride, at least in terms of the equity portion. But of course, when we talk about debt downgrades, it increases the risk on a certain debt. And you guys know that translates to risk premium in terms of yields. And as a result, the 10 and 20-year yields did have a bit of an uptick today, but nothing too major. We will see how this story continues to unfold. So in today's video, guys, we're going to take a look at a few things together. Number one, we're going to be doing our major analysis rundown of all our market indexes, followed thereafter by all of our big tech names, see whether or not there's still some good deals to be had, either across several different indexes or different sectors, and also across our big tech names. Lastly, we'll take a look at our biggest market movers of the day to the upside and to the downside. And lastly, wrap it all off with a glimpse into my portfolio for the trades made today and which ones I'm keeping into the remainder of the week. So let's jump right into it, shall we? So in terms of the market rotation, guys, of course, the SPY and the QQQs were up, but most other sectors were up indeed, which gives you a heat map that kind of looks something like this. Whereas most of the major market sectors were up, tech not having the worst day, but several items were left behind, such as Apple and Tesla overall. Financials not too bad, led once again by the credit cards. Healthcare rebounding in a major way, led by UNH. And on the bottom half of the market, we had consumer defensives, largely mixed, but still up and to the right. The leading sector of the downside still remains energy, however, where we take a look at the one-day relative performance, you can see that even better. Healthcare leading the charge. Feels good for a change, as they've been lagging behind for roughly the last 2, 3, 4 weeks at this point in time. Consumer cyclicals and energies slightly to the downside on the 1 week, since the markets have been doing nothing but going up. Everything except for healthcare remains in the green territory for now. So overall, the market rotation is fairly healthy. Market breadth is there as well. But if we see some signs of weakness, I will definitely let you guys know. But as a first glance, it is looking quite good. What do we still have on the horizon for the week? Well, not much in terms of earnings. You do have a few large companies such as Palo Alto tomorrow after the close, Home Depot before the open, on Wednesday, Baidu, Target, TJX, Snowflake, and Zoom. On a Thursday session, we have another semiconductor company in Analog Devices, BJ's Advanced Auto Parts, and Intuit, especially taking a look at Workday as well for those juicy SaaS companies as well in terms of that niche. But overall, guys, kind of winding down earnings season. No major, real big ones that should move the overall market. And in terms of the economic calendar, same thing, right? We had a bunch of Fed speakers today. Not much was learned. Tomorrow, same concept. The Thursday is going to be the biggest session of them all, where we get the S&P Global Manufacturing PMI and the Global Services PMI overall. But all things considered, guys, if it was not for this piece of news right here, I think we should have a fairly smooth week. Most of all the attention will once again be on the White House releases in terms of any trade deals or stuff like that. That should be front and center on anything you guys are watching throughout the week. So let's get into the technical analysis portion of the video right away. And we're going to start off with the SPY. So the SPY, as we can see, still very smooth action on the SPY. Still a very methodical daily uptrend right here. We are still looking for a technical pullback, but it might not come until we hit resistance. 600 up to 610 is going to be that last line of defense for the bears, which is your all-time highs. And below us, very nice area of support, 585 down to 575, coming in line with the 12 EMA as well. So any pullbacks could just be looking for higher lows for possible further trend expansion, unless we get a negative news headline. Of course, right now, guys, why are the markets keep going up? Well, we're not getting any negative major headlines overall. Other than that Moody's rating cut downgrade, we're not having any economic specific things, such as negative macro data in terms of jobs, in terms of economic output, and also no negative sentiment in terms of the trade deals, right? No increases in those tariffs overall. So when the markets are faced with no negative sentiment or no negative catalysts, they just still tend to drift a little bit higher. So any move lower, going to be looking for a higher low. Anything above 556 could be interesting for a higher low attempt coming into into all the moving averages into support for a reload for those longs, possibly to achieve a new level high. Onto the QQQs right now, same concept, looking quite good. Very smooth daily uptrend by the QQQ bulls right there. And we're coming into resistance quite shortly, 525 up to about 535, all-time high range as well. And below us, we have a nice area of support, 511 down to roughly 500 with the 12 EMA as well. In the event we somehow erode this daily uptrend and devolve into a daily downtrend and break structure, you'll just be looking for a weekly higher low. And we got tons of space, guys. Anything above this guy right here, 427, looking for a weekly higher low for further trend continuation. If we can see some weekly consolidation down into here, sub 500, talking about 490, where you have all of these fantastic weekly moving averages, I think that's going to be a net area for some very decently sized longs. As right now, I am still playing the market long, but I would say I'd be playing it with quarter-sized positions or half-sized positions just because we've ran so much. Special shout out though to our weekly MACD, which is crossing, and it is crossing on more sector than one. Another one that's happening is XLF financials. XLF looking very juicy, whether you look on the weekly or daily chart. Clear, very smooth daily uptrend for your financials bulls right here. We're still going to be looking for a higher low, guys. We're coming up into the last line of defense, which is right about there, 52.16, your all-time highs. In the event you pull back from here, guys, you're just going to be looking for a higher low, essentially, right? Anything at this point above these guys right here, 50.76, looking for a higher low. In the event you flush and lose the daily uptrend pattern and go into a daily downtrend using this area as resistance, quite simply, just when in doubt, zoom out. Go out to the weekly time frame and you'll see it's very clear what the bulls are trying to do, right? Just trying to set up for a weekly higher low. Same concept as the Qs, same concept as the SPY. Take special attention to your moving averages and especially the confluence with this support, 48.27 down to 47. That's going to be such a juicy area of backtest in the event we can get it done. If not, we're just going to drift a little bit higher here. Weekly MACD cross is looking quite special. Moving on to XLV right now, the sector that was left behind, but now is starting to rally a little bit off the bottoms. So here, it's the opposite. We had a daily downtrend. Now we got a very nice size bounce, guys. And what do I look for whenever we have a bounce? Well, you put the fibs on here and you say, how high have they bounced? 78.6% as a matter of fact, which is quite good, all things considered, yeah? It gives the bulls the best possible opportunity to reset the structure of price action. Looking for a higher low now on any drop, and then looking for the daily uptrend shift. If you do get the daily uptrend shift, guys, that means that your weekly lows are now set, and we could possibly look a little bit higher to start expanding and reclaim this weekly uptrend, which has been lost a long time ago. Very nice structure right now into the 200 weekly EMA, which very rarely gets tested on this healthcare chart, and into our prior support levels too. 130 roughly down to 122 is the bottom end of that. I've brought this one up many times in the past week or so. I'm all for playing healthcare, but most likely I'm going to play the ETF overall rather than picking individual companies. I mean, you got some good ones, right? You got TMO, which is down near support lows. You have UNH as well, which has just been absolutely obliterated as of recently. You have some strong pharmaceutical companies such as Merck as well, which are displaying some signs that they do want to kind of turn around and rally a little bit. But in the event you don't want to pick one and you want to go for the entire sector, which has been lagging deeply behind the SPY, you might consider XLV for a bit of a swing trade long or a longer term position for recovery and catch up of that sector. And now moving into semiconductors. So semiconductors down slightly today, not quite able to make it into resistance. 248 up to 259 is going to be that resistance range. Now, the bulls are consolidating a little bit, but not that much. We're still looking for a higher low. Anything above 212, looking for that daily higher low. If we can come back down into this pocket, which is support 232 down to 214, and confluence of not only the daily EMAs, but additionally, guys, what's sitting down there are the weekly EMAs too. So some of your favorite names might be up for grabs, talking about Micron, talking about NVIDIA, ASML, TSM, the big boys, right? Because you'd just be looking for a weekly higher low, tons of confluence, support plus the EMAs. That would be a swing trade long in my humble opinion if it does happen. If not, you're just looking for a range resistance high break, the breakout, the retest, and the run. As of right now, no real big trades for me on semiconductors long. I'm still waiting for that pullback. It's never a good proposition, guys, to go long directly into resistance, just crossing your fingers, closing your eyes, and saying, well, the market goes up every day, so I'm just going to long anywhere, right? Not best practice if you're looking to develop good trading habits in the long term. Moving now onto the IWM Russell. So the Russell growth stocks were down about 0.42% today, equally coming into resistance right now, 207 up to 217. It's a fairly big range, as you can see from this chart right here. Fairly big range, has been tested a number of times to the upside, to the downside. Support over here, it was resistance right there, big area of congestion. So we know it's a big zone and coming into the 26 and 50 EMA on the weekly time frame as well. That being said, the daily higher lows are set right about there, 205.35. If you were to lose that, you would lose the daily uptrending structure going into daily downtrend. And you guys know daily downtrend means weekly consolidation. So that's what we're going to be looking for on the weekly consolidation phase for these markets right there. 200 down to 190 is going to be that big area of support and major confluence with the green, which is the 200 weekly moving average, and the 12. So the short and the longest one kind of lining up for a juicy higher low swing trade attempt. Anything above 180 at this point, just looking for healthy weekly consolidation. And same concept, right? You have a cross of the weekly MACD, not only on a lot of index ETFs, but also on a lot of individual names, which is why I reiterate that any dips in terms of weekly consolidations, 1-2 weeks, should indeed be for a buying bias overall. And now lastly, the Dow Jones down about up 0.32%. Same concept, however, the Dow Jones now is breaking out. You can see that I did a little bit of a doodle last Thursday when we last saw each other, but the concept remains the same. Yeah, beautiful daily uptrend, clear as day right now. The higher lows are set. Now we are almost cracking above our resistance zone, 42,500, let's call it, to around 41,009. Any retracement for a higher low for further trend expansion to the upside looking quite good. But in the event we can't get it done and roll over this week because of XYZ catalysts that the market may throw at us, we'll just understand what we're looking for. Same thing as everything else. Anything above 38K, looking for a weekly higher low for possible further trend continuation. And I'd be a big fan if I'm looking for some Dow Jones longs, either for a more significant breakout, then retest of this first support line, or if we get rejected, a retest down here of all the confluence of the moving averages and your lower support bound, which is currently 41.3 down to 40,500. We'll take a very brief look because I didn't do it on Friday. XLP looking for the weekly uptrend breakout, could be due for some swing trade longs. Keep the stops below 79.37 and you'd be targeting all-time highs as take profit number one. Of course, not looking too bad there at all in terms of consumer defensives. Utilities also breaking out higher right now, but I can't chase this one. I'd be looking for a pullback. Any pullback area into these guys right there, call it 79 and the EMAs, could be a gorgeous breakout, retest, and run trade continuation pattern. Of course, real estate not looking too bad either, bouncing out of support 41.50 down to about 39. This one could be quite interesting, guys. You got an engulfing move right there. Any back test such as last week could be a decent opportunity to build some swing trade longs with a take profit into take profit number one 43.60 and TP number two 45. Not looking too bad at all there. And lastly, energy's been categorically weak and coming into support. I wouldn't say there's a swing trade for me right now because we're below the EMAs and we are into resistance 89.68 down to 83.57. So I'd have to wait for one of two things, either give me a back test down here, then I could take some swing longs with some stops below there and the take profit at the top end of the range, or just give me the absolute breakout, retest, and then might revisit this one for a long. Those are the two types of setups I'd be looking for myself. Taking a look at the VIX, we're not going to do the VIX anymore every day because it's no longer a major concern for us. That being said, it is currently still trending to the downside, still trending into your long-term median average, which is between 13 to 15. And as of right now, no signs that there's any worries in the markets right now overall. We'll keep you posted though. A decent time to go shopping for any leap contracts that you wanted to do. I never recommend doing them when the VIX is so high, but right now, when the VIX is low, it is definitely time to buy. If you have a very long-term time horizon for those options, the dollar after that Moody's downgrade, not moving too much, still taking close attention to this weekly time frame here. Break below support structure. Now it's resistance 102 down to roughly 100.6. Is it going to be a downswing right here for continuation, or can the bulls get it done and engulf this move? I don't know. We will pay special attention to that. It'll all depend on foreign investment into the United States. But as long as the dollar remains slightly weak, guys, well, yields also can remain slightly weak. So please keep that in mind. Or yields can remain high, bonds can stay a bit weak. Talking about those yields, I mean, we did react from that Moody's article, but not so much, right? 4.5 on the 10 is roughly the break area, right? That's when some things start to break. And on the 20-year yield, that is about the 5% range. So far, so good. Not really breaking and closing above those. We're still going to be looking for the yield bears to kind of take this one down and move into the rate cutting cycle, despite the fact that the US sounds and appears to be a more risky place to invest, which is why investors for those longer term yields are requiring more premium for buying those bonds. Speaking about the bonds, TLT actually went down into the 84.66 range. It's a phenomenal buying area for yields in my opinion, but I will reiterate, guys, any buys need to be done with utmost patience. Yields do not move like Palantir. Bonds do not move like Palantir or growth stocks, right? They are very slow. I think it's a multi-year low, as a matter of fact, right now, only achieved in January of this same year and October of 2023. Multi-year lows for yields, very high yields into a rate cutting cycle can be a juicy proposition. However, you need to set your expectations back and need to give this time on this trade for it to really develop as you would want to see. All right, moving in a little bit of a commodity action right here. We're going to take a look at gold, the elephant in the room that everybody seemed to want to trade up there, but now it appears as it's not so easy, right? That being said, what is gold trying to do? Well, they had a daily downtrend into a large engulfing move to the downside. That meant that we were quickly into weekly consolidation, and this is going to be the clearest time frame of them all, in my opinion. We were in weekly overbought conditions. We hit the all-time high after blasting through a record of upswings here, and now you have a weekly downtrend underway. So the short-term and medium-term bears are definitely in control. At this point in time, you would be looking for a little bit of an upswing, but any upswings, guys, keep in mind, we're under the EMAs, and any upswings will probably be met with a little bit of resistance from those bears, and I would not be surprised if we can head one leg lower. That being said, if we do, on gold, we'll be once again targeting the 12 EMA right there. And the second line of defense has to be these guys right here, right around the $3,100 mark overall, as we are still coming down off of very hot monthly overbought conditions. If push comes to shove and equities just run away with it and gold becomes slightly less popular, they'll just go into a very normal monthly consolidation phase, many of which they've done in the past. But you'll always notice one thing, guys. When gold pulls away too much from the monthly 12, it will always come back and test it eventually. Maybe that's the time. We will see. As of right now, no swing trade positions on gold for me. And lastly, Bitcoin. Bitcoin looking very good coming into the highs, all-time highs as a matter of fact. They tried to break out on the Sunday session, not quite getting it done. The news headlines from Moody's brought them a little bit lower. That being said, you're currently, guys, in a nice, smooth daily uptrend. We were noticing this bull flag. I was telling you guys I was going to possibly position for some swing trade longs, which I did through the intermediary of MSTR. I'll show you guys that trade at the end of the video. That being said, daily uptrend, very nice, closing above the 105 level on a almost weekly time frame, which is exactly what you want to see. They have never closed a weekly candle up here until now, so looking very good for some expansion. Any back tests right now will be back testing 104, 103, the guys that we just broke out of. And to the weekly charts, guys, the weekly charts are looking good. You got your MACD expansion here on the cross, and also you're just looking for further upside continuation. Next target would be around 110. If they can't get it done, and this is just a fake breakout, false breakout, and we just unwind everything, well, don't get too disappointed. You know that the bulls are going to go for right now, looking for a weekly higher low. Yeah, at this point, you'd probably be targeting the average point of these guys, which would be around 95, and lining up with the 12 EMA. That is everything I had for you guys in terms of your indexes and commodity rundowns and Bitcoin. Now let's dive into some big tech names, shall we? All right, so talking about big tech, there was a few very juicy opportunities, guys, especially if you were watching my top 5 options video yesterday, and a few of which I took myself in our Discord together. Hopefully you guys were able to find those very same plays. So launching it off with Apple real quick. Ending the day 1.17% to the downside, but was down over 2.25% at one point today. The chart is very clear in my opinion, guys. We got rejected at resistance 210 up to 221, and we're just looking for a semblance of a daily higher low at this point. Anything above 193, we'll be looking for that daily higher low and trying to go for that juicy trend expansion. Many other tech names have blasted through their resistance ranges, but not Apple just yet. So I do still think it's a phenomenal opportunity to be either writing some short puts in the bottom end of this range, or possibly if we do approach this gap fill region around the 200 mark, maybe a little swing trade, right? Swing trade entry would go in around the 200 for the gap fill. Stop loss would go below 193 because that would invalidate any long attempts if it does breach there. And you'd be targeting the resistance range highs, and these guys right there, 225. So decent risk to reward profile on Apple right now. Still no weekly trend breakout, but some could argue that this is a very nice bull flag formation tightening up and may just be able to rejoin its sector peers in just a few short days or maybe a week or so. That being said, Apple's fundamentals, are a bit slow in terms of revenue growth and iPhone refresh cycle and all that. They have their problems with AI. At the end of the day, Apple is Apple, and if the market goes up, Apple probably will follow. Moving on to AMD right now. AMD was down 2% today. This one was actually as well on my list of stocks to watch very closely, right? So as of right now, we have a nice daily uptrend underway from the bulls, and we're trying to possibly set up a daily downtrend. No breaks below, though. Break below 114 would be a new daily downtrend, getting rejected out of resistance right there. 120 120 up to 133. Daily downtrend means you got to go one time frame higher. A downtrend on the daily means you're just looking for very healthy weekly consolidation. It's a beautiful weekly uptrend, looking for a weekly higher low down into this region of support right there. I'm a big fan of playing AMD either on the short put side. Anything below 100 would kind of pique my interest and possibly also pique my interest for some swing trade longs. The MACD on AMD has now crossed after being negative for the past 6 months, and the valuation right here, as we covered after their earnings, does definitely support some expansion, especially after that Saudi Arabia deal. Those new streams of revenue are probably not priced into the stock right now. Moving on to Amazon right now, Amazon up 0.28%. They started off the day negative. This was a fantastic opportunity early in the morning if you could find it for a bit of a short put entry, right? Using those juicy short puts to collect premium under the market. Daily uptrend, now daily downtrend on Amazon. So Amazon as well, setting up the daily downtrend. And as I've been saying for the past 2 weeks, if you lose the daily downtrend, same as everything, guys, you were just looking for a weekly higher low. Yeah, the expected move on Amazon this week is 200. So at this point, you're just looking for a weekly higher low down into the EMA's juicy pocket right here, 200 down to 193. That will be some swing trade longs for me, or an area to be writing short puts below in the lower 190 range in around the support region right there. Looking pretty good for the weekly higher low for possible trend continuation to the upside, and the weekly MACD would definitely also point at that too, as now it is starting to cross. Amazon's fundamentals, always so phenomenal. They had fantastic earnings, which we covered on the channel just a few short weeks ago. On to Google right now. Google also up about 0.26% today, and Google is really trying their best here, right? After that disastrous news came out 2 weeks ago, now we got a nice engulfing move, trying to set a higher low with the low today and trying to go for the new daily uptrend shift. If they can't get it done, no problem at all. We have a lot of space, right? At this point, anything above this guy right here, 150, looking for a new daily higher low. So if they cannot blast through this resistance range right away, 173 down to roughly 163, right? It's a very hotly contested area. It may require either if they can do it in 2 attempts, that's fine like this. However, if they need a bit more momentum, you may need to come down a little bit more into that 160 range, gather some momentum, and try it again. 2 swing trades for me at this current time for Google. Either give me a retest into the EMAs at the lower 160s, I'll gladly take a swing trade attempt, or give me a breakout retest, I'll try the retest and possibly go for the expansion as well. 2 types of trades for me, as taking longs into resistance is not my forte, and it should not be yours as well. And also trying to go for that weekly uptrend shift for the bulls, as the MACD is also displaying the common tendencies which you've seen across indexes and other tech names. Fundamentals, of course, do or can warrant some expansion, as a stock even around the low 160 range or mid 160s is still quite cheap. On to Meta right now, 0.01% to the upside. So Meta, not too bad of a day, but we can clearly see what's going on here across most of big tech, right? They ran a ton and now they're consolidating a little bit, right? So same concept on Meta. Daily consolidation underway, anything above 591, looking for a new higher low for possible expansion coming into the 12 EMA quite shortly. And if we continue this pattern, or it joins some of its peers in setting a daily downtrend, well, just zoom out, guys, right? What are you looking for on the weekly here? Very easy, right? Looking for a weekly higher low, possibly coming down into the EMAs, which are all right around 600, and that support zone too, 600 down to 558. I like to call this an area of confluence. All the EMAs and support, this backtest of this region would fire off a swing trade from me. And if you have a larger account, you may also want to consider, if Meta is a stock that you like, you may want to consider writing some short puts in that area as well, with that nice zone of confluence. Meta, in terms of the fundamentals, guys, fantastic at 635. They're still only trading at a 25 forward price to earnings, and you got a nice weekly MACD cross. So on any further backtests of this stock, I will be looking for some long entries. On to Microsoft. Microsoft off another 1% today. Wow, I mean, Microsoft, after lagging everything for so long, actually taking the charge and leading the tech sector right now. So Microsoft looking very strong. A daily uptrend continues right now. However, we are into overbought conditions, so please keep that in mind. Any downswing would obviously be for a higher low, anything above 431, looking for a daily higher low for possible further trend continuation. And if I ever see Microsoft pull something like this, to where they lose structure, extended daily consolidation, this is going to be a very juicy entry, guys. This is what you call a breakout retest on a weekly time frame. The higher the time frame you see it on, the likelier the follow through to that direction. So if we be looking for a back test here of roughly 435 down to 426. Juicy breakout retest and possibly run swing trade attempt. And also if we come down there, I might be tempted to sell some short puts with my big account down here in the 420 to 410 range overall. Microsoft fundamentals need absolutely no introduction. It's one of the best companies in the market, and I was very pleased in terms of their earnings when we covered them a few short weeks ago. Now moving on to Netflix overall. So Netflix flat on the day, however, did not really lose any ground, so to speak, right? Now, we just broke out of this beautiful bull flag at the all-time highs, and now currently looking to set more all-time highs, right? So on any move lower, which we did this morning, we were looking for a retest of these guys, 1161, and it almost happened with the 12 EMA being almost in line with that region too. Short-term bulls remain in full control. Any further pullback, still looking for a higher low. Anything above 1,100 would be the mark for that. No swing trades for me, just because Netflix is very extended. And even on the weekly, we are very extended to the upside. So not looking to play this one. However, the bulls are maintaining beautiful structure and their fundamentals are very, very, very strong overall. But you got to keep in mind at 1,200 bucks, it is more expensive than it has usually traded at. So you're kind of going against the wind right here into any swing trade longs. They're very greedy longs. There's nothing wrong about greedy longs if you want to do them. However, they're just not my favorite trade overall. Moving on to NVIDIA right now. NVIDIA. This is going to be a beautiful swing trade in my humble opinion too. Let me explain. Daily uptrend is looking very gorgeous right now. We are kind of stopping out at the top end of this resistance area, 135 to 125. It was a very big one for the bulls and the bears in the past, so I'm expecting this time to be no different. Daily overbought conditions. So NVIDIA has earnings next week, guys. If I can see a bit of a back test down here at the lower bound of the support, 125 down to 120, where the daily EMAs are sitting, and also where your weekly EMAs are sitting as well, I'm going to like this one, guys. I might even go for leap call contracts, looking for a weekly higher low for possible further trend continuation on the weekly. Anything above 95.50 is looking for that higher low, looking quite good. And I do suspect their earnings are going to be quite good. They got the Saudi Arabia deal. They also have the Trump administration playing into their favor as they're trying to now deregulate the sector that they've so heavily regulated in the past for national security purposes and whatnot. Seems as though Jensen's comments of trying to let the chips flow, he wants to compete with China. Will he be able to get through to President Trump and really open up the markets and be able to directly compete with Huawei with no export restrictions whatsoever? Well, that's a bit of wishful thinking right now, but definitely some steps are being made, which is why I think this one might just have some further upside remaining into it. And after roughly 5-6 months of a MACD being very subdued, we have a bullish momentum cross. So any pullbacks will be an opportunity for some longs, in my humble opinion, for NVIDIA, as also their valuation does support some expansion, possibly leading into those earnings, which I think they'll do well in. Moving on to Tesla right now, down 2.25%. But overall, I mean, Tesla's just doing a whole bunch of nothing. They're kind of consolidating. No new highs, no real new lows. It kind of looks like Netflix as well, right? So if you break this area 331, let's call it, that would be a daily downturn on Tesla. But it's all good, guys, because we've broken out of a huge range of resistance right now, and you'd just be looking for a weekly higher low, yeah? At this point, anything above 270, looking for a weekly higher low. The weekly uptrend looks like this, looking for a weekly higher low, and they'd be back testing a very big level. All the weekly EMAs are acting as confluence right there. 300 down to roughly, 257 is that whole support range. And the weekly MACD, similar to many stocks and many indexes, is pointing to the fact that, well, we might just be looking for a bit more momentum to the upside, just maybe not in a straight line. So whenever we're looking at this, it means that when the momentum is bullish, when the weekly timeframes are controlled by the bulls, any pullbacks should be looking for long bias setups. So please keep that in mind on Tesla as well. Now into Palantir. Palantir was actually down 2.5%, an uncharacteristically red day for Palantir. Seems as though this company can only go up, well, except for when it goes down, right? That being said, fairly obvious, yeah? Daily uptrend is very nice right now, looking for a daily higher low at this point, anything above 105.74. Looking for a daily higher low for possible further trend continuation. Now, there's an argument to be made for some people that, you may want to play this little break out of the all-time highs, back test, and then run. It's a very greedy long, in my humble opinion, just because Palantir has run so darn much in the last roughly 4 or 5 weeks of trading, right? The stock's up, let's just call it almost 100%, almost a 2x to the top, right? And that is a very, very large move. That being said, any extended consolidation could do wonders for the stock in the event you lose the daily uptrend and go down. Well, you'd be looking for a weekly higher low at this point, anything above 105. Just be looking for a weekly higher low for possibly consolidation. The best thing that can happen to this stock, in my opinion, well, maybe not for you long-term bulls, but everybody looking to swing trade this one, build me a range of consolidation at the highs, tighten it up, and then we can talk about some further upside longs. But up here, it is a very greedy long, in my opinion, both in terms of the price action, but also in terms of the fundamentals of the company. And I'm telling you guys that as a Palantir shareholder myself with a cost basis around $12. I mean, it is expensive, guys. No matter which way you spin it, it is expensive, whether you look at forward price to earnings, the PEG ratio, price to sales, free cash flow yield. I bet you guys all know that. But Palantir, at the end of the day, is kind of a cult. And we've seen this before with many stocks, to where sometimes stocks can disregard fundamentals and technicals and only run on sentiment. Which one has done that to the flip side? Well, it was UNH, right? UNH disregarding fundamentals, disregarding all technical support levels, but because the sentiment was so bad, it just flushed and flushed and flushed and flushed. So Palantir is just the polar opposite, and sometimes that happens, right? A stock's price action is the combination of three things: technicals, fundamentals, and sentiment. And sentiment is the only one of those three that can completely erase the other two temporarily, not forever. Moving on to SOFI right now. SOFI down about 1.36%. Now, not too bad of a price action on SOFI, but still consolidating, right? Now, upside resistance is 14 up to $16. That is very clear as day. Nice breakout here to the upside. Daily uptrend, looking for a daily higher low. Still not set anything above 1242. Looking for that daily higher low, possibly for some swing trade long expansions here. Now, I mean, this is a bit of a tricky one because the overhead resistance is quite large, but if we do pull back a little bit more into these guys right there, low 13s, there's a swing trade attempt. Stops would go below here, and you'd be targeting pretty much the highs right there, 1475. So not too bad of a risk reward profile for a small format swing trade, a very tight format swing trade. The wider format swing trade, especially, is on the weekly timeframes right there. In the event you get a weekly higher low being set by the bulls coming down into there, well, your weekly higher lows are going to be looking for anything under, anything above 1051, right? So if you pull back a little bit too hard here, swing trade longs are there for the weekly time frames. And where would you be targeting? The upside expansion, the very juicy 1617 area. That's for a bit of a larger and longer duration swing trade, which could take some months or some weeks to actually play out. That being said, the MACD is doing the exact same thing as all the other charts we've just looked at, and the macro, or rather the fundamentals, do support some expansion as the stock is reasonably priced further growth metrics in the future. Now, the two last ones, going to move on to Uber. So Uber up 0.73%, still marching on to almost brand new all-time highs today. This chart has just been so strong, but it is daily overbought right now. Daily uptrend is obviously clear as day. The higher lows are just set right now at the lows of a few days ago, 89.21. If this one tops out soon, looking for a higher low for possibly further expansion, guys, but it's getting very extended from a few things. Extended from the daily 12 EMAs, very extended from the weekly 12 EMAs. So I would not be surprised if we consolidate soon into a daily downtrend. Have no fear, the long-term bulls are here. So moving on, looking for a weekly higher low, and at this point, anything above the 7116 level would be looking for a higher low. Now, this area is probably a little bit too far right now. I'll be looking for price action to consolidate. Either give me some form of a tightening range at the top, or a decent enough size pullback that I can possibly write some short puts down there. Uber right now is gone at this point, guys. Valuation does support further upside, however. Next upside target is 100. Very happy to be a longer-term shareholder of Uber right now, but starting a position here, I mean, if I had to absolutely start an Uber position for a long-term portfolio, I have nothing against it. The valuation does support a little bit more upside. It is trading slightly rich in terms of price to earnings, but they're growing EPS at a fantastic clip, and the trailing 12-month free cash flow yield is quite manageable still. For me, this would be like a quarter-size position, right? Quarter-size position, and if we get some further pullbacks, then I would kind of build into it. But right now, you know, it's kind of gone. I wouldn't be chasing it, so to speak. And lastly, TSM, another one of our very bullish semiconductor plays right here. So looking quite good. Further expansion of the daily uptrend highs. Looking not too bad right now, guys. Looking for some daily higher lows at this point, anything above 170. Looking for a daily higher low. Getting rejected from resistance, which is 193 down to 184. If you pull back into here for XYZ reason, go for this gap fill at 180 and join all of our moving averages as confluence. Ooh, that looks like a very nice swing trade long in my humble opinion. Looking for a weekly higher low into those same daily and now weekly EMAs too, with beautiful support below 172 down to 155. Fundamentals are gorgeous for this company. This is one that I'll be keeping a close watch on for short puts below here in the 170s, maybe even for some swing trade longs on any extended pullbacks, because the weekly MACD shows momentum is definitely back to the bulls, and as a result, your trades should have a bullish leaning bias. That is everything for our major list. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Now, in terms of the biggest movers of the day and the biggest winners, the biggest losers, UNH coming up 8.21%. Now, this one is a little bit tricky, guys. I still do think there's a criteria for some longs, but criteria for some longs from here, just go with the fibs at this point, right? In terms of the retracement sizes that you're looking for, we have a few areas, if I can get my button right? If we have a few areas of interest for us, we're coming up into the 23.6. 38.2 is the next stop pretty much. So we're kind of wide right now, and we are off the bottoms, but if I was in this one myself, I'd probably be trading this one with some form of a trailing stop overall. That being said, if we do consolidate a little bit more and move into a downswing right here, looking to support 300 down to roughly 275. Back test this area, very simple. Stop goes below the low, then you're targeting the remainder of the gap fill up to around 376. Could take a while to move up there. I know it's been coming out of daily oversold conditions right now. You got some bullish momentum. You have, as you can see, the volume climax of the sell-off, which usually lets you know that it's probably soon ending, and that was indeed the case, but still play this one with a little bit of caution. Now, the dollar stores are coming up higher as well, as it might just be a decent proposition. No swing trades on the dollar stores for me, but if I had to bid on this one for a longer term recovery story, it's not the worst play in the book. NVO also trying to make its way up to the highs, still looking for a weekly uptrend breakout pattern on UNH. There is a bit of a swing trade here. Stops would go below 63 at this rate. Going for the weekly trend expansion, and your take profit area should be roughly $75 to roughly $80. It doesn't look too bad, as a matter of fact, for the bulls. They're kind of just bull flagging right here. So you'd want to keep your stops below that bull flag and go for the expansion. Robinhood continues moving on higher and higher and higher. You're chasing the market if you're going after this one right now, in my humble opinion. But any extended dips, the rest, the same as we saw with the rest of everything, right? Get some extended dips, you'll get my interest once again. If I'm in some longs right now, I don't see any reason to sell. 65, 66 is the final take profit area. Humana, and another one I want to bring your attention to is Chewy. Chewy is just going for it, man. Look at this beautiful daily trend expansion right now. I'd be looking for a back test of these guys right about here. Right? Backtest this area with all the EMAs, 39 to 36. That could be a decent swing trade opportunity. And lastly, MSTR, based off of the Bitcoin trade as well. This is one that I gave to my Discord members, looking for the good old breakout, or retest, and possibly run with some Bitcoin being able to push above the all-time highs with that beautiful weekly close. We're looking good right now in terms of that swing trade attempt. And that is a daily and also weekly pattern too, right? MSTR, guys, the weekly trend shift is in motion right now. Looking for a back to this region, back test of this region, and possibly run to the upside with Bitcoin overall. Not looking too bad. And to the downside, well, we had some names moving down, but not too much, right? Soundhound still relatively struggling. Not too much interested in this one, but maybe for some short puts down here, $7-8. It's relatively cheap. A back test of this region maybe as well for a bit of a swing trade long. FSLR unfortunately coming undone after yesterday's, last week's rather very bullish price action today. Could be a short put attempt down here. 140 to 130, but no swing trade longs from me in this region, right? You're halfway between support and halfway between resistance. So it's a 1-to-1 R&R. Not too interested in that. Maybe CLH as well for some short puts, possibly below here, 33, 32, but we're reacting from a resistance right now. Some people might think this is a swing trade long, and you know, you have a decent point, right? It's above all the EMAs right now. The stop loss would go below here, 32.15, and at that point you just be targeting upside momentum into the next range, which is 45 to 51. So it could be another idea. Those are mostly all of the slight swing trades and or positioning that we like to have on our biggest winners and losers of the day. That's pretty much everything I had for you guys in terms of the chart. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Now let's dive into my portfolio for a few of the trades made today. And as a matter of fact, I didn't do any updates on Friday as well. So here are the trades from last week overall. We had a pretty good week, very small week in terms of the wheel. One assignment got called away. Elf Beauty realized almost $800 after being assigned on Elf a while ago. Finally out of that trade, making almost 1% a week the whole time we were in. SOFI rolled some covered calls. I'll show you the positions at the end. Some directional trades that you'll no longer see in my account. The Nikes, the K-Web call debit spreads, those are all closed for a juicy profit. NVO, I cut my position in half, wound it down, only lost $10 on this first call debit spread. I had 2 contracts, so I chose to take a little bit off the table because healthcare was unfavorable when I was at par, and I'll let the rest ride because it is for August. Then we had a decent showing in terms of lottery trades as well, whether call debit spreads. ALAB, NVIDIA had a very nice win there as well. The Walmart, the CoreWeave short puts into earnings. And I had a QQQ hedge to the downside because the markets have been running very, very hot. And I was looking for a pullback. So I did a hedge. I had 2 contracts. I closed one for about a 50% loss. I'll keep the other one and see what happens, but they were very small. So other than the hedge trade, which is normal, right? The market's going higher, and the NVOs, everything else pretty much winning, building upon our very decent win streak that we've been having, guys, in the past few weeks, as I've been, showing you guys on the channel every single week, right? So now that being out of the way, let us actually dive into the portfolio, and I'll show you guys what I did today and what I'm keeping for the week. All right, so in terms of the new positions, guys, quite simply, very easy. We got some Apple 197.5 puts, 50 cents bear market strategy on this one. Did not clip the low of the day. I got to the markets a little bit late because of my travels. I was here an hour after the open, and in that time, unfortunately, the markets rallied a little bit. I was still able to find some opportunities. So we got the Apples running. We still got the Affirms running that I think I showed you guys last week, but if I didn't, 47 puts for about 21 cents. They're roughly at par right now. We'll be focusing on these blue dots right here. 157.5 puts on Google, got 66 cents for them. They're working wonders for us right now at about 40 cents. And also lastly, we did some SOXLs, the 14.5 puts here for about 7 cents early this morning, 0.5% for the week. And now they're currently in profit a little bit. As you can see, all the positions that you guys previously saw are intact. Maybe some of the ones that you didn't see is a GD bull call debit spread that I did, 271. That one's not showing the current price, but they're around $4 right now. They're moving really well, right? GD was a very easy swing trade in my opinion. Just looking for the back test right here for the daily and weekly expansions. Looking quite good, moving into our target, which is right above the range right there. And lastly, my other trade that you guys may or may not have seen so far, probably not, is the MSTRs, of course. 2 contracts, bull call debit spreads, July 435s, 440s. We paid about $1.67 for them right now. They're up nicely, and as I said, we're just going to be targeting that expansion for MSTR overall. Looking quite good in terms of our price action overall. But as you can see, the portfolio has not moved. I have tons of buying power overall, guys. I have some wheel trades. I have some call debit spread trades remaining. I still have my leaps on Amazon, and I still have my leaps on MU as well. But most of all these positions, you guys should probably know by now. Maybe some that you haven't seen is the Rocket Mortgage leap calls that I took, $12 calls for May of 2026. I'm looking for some nice expansion there. So far, so good. And maybe another one that you didn't see was the Affirm, right? Affirm also have a leap call right there. Asymmetric bet going for a very high strike for a low cost of entry. If Affirm does well, wouldn't be surprises if we can make some very decent money there. So that all in all, that's pretty much it. You can take a look at the position tracker to see that I also closed a HIMS trade today. We got them last Thursday for 22 cents. I closed them for like 3 pennies today or something like that. So really just an easy in and out wheel trade that I got into. You can see that HIMS closing trade right about there. And if you want to take a screenshot of all the positions, if they make more sense when displayed like this, feel free, guys. That's something that I do for my Discord members every day. If you guys don't see my trades, I recap them all here. So they're very easy to view in and out. So that's everything I had for you guys today. If you enjoyed it, consider dropping a like. I would really appreciate it for the growth of the channel. Consider subscribing to the channel if you're new as well. We do these videos every Monday to Friday. Although the Friday videos now, I'll probably film on the Saturday sessions. And now lastly, if you have any questions, always look for you guys to leave them down below the comments. Even when I'm traveling, wherever I am in the world, I'm always going to answer your guys' questions for anything you may have. Stocks, options, strategies, whatever you want, I'll do my best to help you out. And lastly, guys, if you wanted to join a trading group with about over 150 to almost 200 other members that we all mostly trade a lot of the wheel strategy, but also a lot of directional bets too. As you can see, I'm very big into swing trading with defined levels. If you wanted to learn more about that or join a group that is focused on not only swing trading and running credit strategies in the market, but also long-term wealth building for long-term portfolios, well, you may consider joining ours. In that group, you get access to all of my swing trades, whatever they are, whether they're the wheel trades, directional trades, lottery trades, and everything in between, leap call options, swing trades with shares, anything that could possibly be there, whether you have a small account, medium account, large account. All these trades are scalable to the upside and to the downside. You get all my trades as they come out every single day. You get access to our private morning live streams. Even when I'm traveling 2 hours, 3 hours a day, I'll be here trading live and answering all your questions on your stocks, your options, and your long-term portfolios. You can always ask me questions in the live stream. And if you're not there, well, you can always watch them after they're all recorded. You can also ask me all your questions in our relevant chat rooms right here. Very quick to answer usually on any questions you may have. We also do private videos, a lot of very good private video, guys. Introductions to technical analysis, fundamental analysis, different option strategies that I don't talk too much about on YouTube, but that I do utilize, as you guys can clearly see. and many other things such as that. You also get access to all of my charts. So you can copy paste all of my watch lists, my options watch lists, all of my support resistance areas that I've labeled on, hundreds of charts by now at this point in time. And you also get access to, whenever you guys see some annotations, right? You just get copy paste all my charts, whatever's on them. You get all the fundamental analysis of everything. You just copy paste all my watch lists, copy paste all my charts. It takes literally 10 seconds and they're yours. That's just another added benefit. If any of that sounds good to you, well, I'll leave the link to join down below in the description. Hopefully I see you guys in there soon. And if not, I'll see you back here on the channel. That's it for me. Have a great rest of your evening, and I'll see you guys tomorrow after the close. Happy trading and peace.